Today have been pretty great crowds, and just I never thought I would get like the Coco chant kind of anywhere except the U.S. But the fact that it's happening in a region where
Hey everyone, this is Serena, and we are behind the scenes of my quarter shoot. My mantra for 2026 is
You were almost saying farewell.
I don't know. If I ever say farewell, I wouldn't tell anyone. So.
13 words. That's all it took. Serena Williams' shock offer leaves Coco Gauff stunned. Welcome back to Chatterbox, the place where we don't just read the headlines. We read between the lines. And today, folks, we have a story so layered, so dramatic, so absolutely loaded with behind-the-scenes tension that by the time we're done, you're going to be sitting there thinking, how did I almost miss this? Because this isn't just a tennis story. This is a story about legacy, about loneliness, about a woman who built a billion-dollar empire from the ashes of her career, and about a 21-year-old girl who, in 13 words, showed the entire world exactly why she deserves to carry the torch. So buckle up, grab your drink of choice, and do not, I repeat, do not scroll away. Because we are about to take you from the scorching courts of Melbourne to the private corridors of Rod Laver Arena, into the world of Serena Williams' business empire, and right into the heart of a moment that nobody saw coming. This is Chatterbox. Let's get into it. Part 1. The Pressure Cooker, Melbourne, January 2026. Let's set the scene. It's the 2026 Australian Open, the first Grand Slam of the year. Melbourne Park is absolutely electric. Temperatures are soaring. We're talking about heat so brutal that the thermometer is hitting 44 degrees Celsius. That's over 112 degrees Fahrenheit for our friends stateside. The roof is coming down on Rod Laver Arena. The heat index is maxing out. And right in the middle of all that fire is one Coco Gauff. Now, Coco is not just any player walking through those gates. She is the world number 3. She is a 2-time Grand Slam champion, the 2023 U.S. Open and the 2025 French Open. She is, according to Forbes, the highest-paid female athlete on the entire planet for 3 consecutive years. In 2025 alone, she pulled in an estimated $33 million. $33 million. And she's only 21. But here is the thing nobody talks about enough. Being the face of American tennis carries a weight that no endorsement deal, no trophy, no ranking can ever fully explain. The expectations are crushing. Every single match she plays, every single press conference she walks into, every single Instagram post she puts out, it all gets dissected under a microscope. And in 2026, that microscope just got a whole lot bigger. Coco walked into the Australian Open looking sharp. In the early rounds, she was clinical. She beat Kamila Rakimova in her opener with a clean 6-2, 6-3 victory. Then she dug deep, real deep, in a 3-set war against her compatriot Hailey Baptiste, showing the kind of grit that separates the good from the great. And then came the 4th round against 19th-seeded Karolina Muchova. Another 3-setter. Another test. And Coco passed it, winning 6-1, 3-6, 6-3 to extend her Grand Slam record in 3-set matches to an impressive 21 wins and just 6 losses. She became the youngest female player to reach 3 consecutive Australian Open quarterfinals since Maria Sharapova did it between 2005 and 2008. That is not a small thing. That is history. But here's the cruel irony of tennis. You can play the best tennis of your life in the first 4 rounds, and then the quarterfinal comes, and everything changes. Part 2. The Grandma, at 21, the loneliest place in sport. Before we get to the quarterfinal and everything that followed, we need to talk about something that most people gloss right over. Something that Coco herself has been incredibly brave and incredibly honest about. We need to talk about what it's actually like to be Coco Gauff on the WTA Tour. See, Coco burst onto the scene in 2019. She was 15 years old. 15. She qualified for Wimbledon as a wild card and then proceeded to walk into Rod Laver Arena. Well, center court at Wimbledon, actually, and beat the legendary Venus Williams. Venus Williams, a 5-time Wimbledon champion. The crowd went absolutely berserk. It was one of the most stunning upsets in the history of the sport. But what happened after that moment? What happened when the cameras turned off and the crowd went home? Coco walked into a locker room full of women in their 20s and 30s. Women who were married. women who had children, women who had been on tour for a decade. And to most of them, this teenager was either a curiosity or a threat. Coco has spoken openly about how isolating that experience was, and when she talks about it, you can hear the emotion in her voice. She told reporters at the 2026 Australian Open that some players were simply standoffish. It wasn't necessarily that they were mean, she said, but it was a completely different world from what she knew in juniors tennis. She described coming onto the professional circuit and feeling like nobody was talking to her. There weren't many people around her age, and it was, in her own words, very lonely. Think about that for a second. You are 15 years old. You have just pulled off one of the biggest upsets in tennis history, and you go back to the locker room and feel like the only kid at an adult party. That is the reality of life as a teenage prodigy in professional tennis. But Coco didn't crumble. She kept going. She kept winning. She kept building. And now, in 2026, something remarkable has happened. The locker room is finally starting to look like her generation. And Coco has become the one welcoming the newcomers. At the 2026 Australian Open, the next generation showed up in force. We're talking about 18-year-old Iva Jovic, who stormed through to the quarterfinals with a stunning 6-0, 6-1 demolition of Yulia Putintseva in the fourth round before facing world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka. We're talking about 19-year-old Victoria Mboko, who pushed Sabalenka hard in the second set before falling. And 18-year-old Mira Andreeva, the 8th seed, who was herself taken down by Alina Svitolina. Here's the kicker, though. Coco is only 3 years older than Andreeva, only 3 years older than Jovic, barely 2 years older than Mboko. And yet, reporters started asking Coco, about mentoring these young players, as if she were some seasoned veteran in her 30s handing down wisdom from on high. Coco laughed it off, but she addressed it directly. She said the way people ask those questions makes it seem like she's way older than them, when in reality they are all peers. They are all in the same age group. They hang out together. But she also acknowledged something important. She has been around longer. She made her debut when some of these players were still in middle school. And that experience, painful as it was, has taught her something invaluable. So now, Coco makes a conscious effort. She goes up to the new players. She says hi. She wishes them good luck. She did it with Jovic at Cincinnati last summer, even though she barely knew her at the time. Just a quick conversation. Just a human being showing another human being that someone gives a damn. And those small moments have turned into real friendships. Coco told reporters at the Australian Open that the last couple of years on tour have been some of her happiest. Not because the tennis has been perfect. It hasn't. But because she finally sees friendly faces in the locker room. People she connects with. People who get it. She even joked about her older friends on the tour, specifically Jessica Pegula and Madison Keys, saying they are, quote, a little bit old, so they don't always connect on the same things. Sorry, Jess. Sorry, Maddie. You have been officially aged out by the 21-year-old. But make no mistake, this shift in Coco's world, this emergence of her generation, this feeling of finally not being alone, it has changed her. She is no longer the scared teenager in the corner. She is the leader. And that leadership is about to be tested in the most painful way imaginable. Part 5. The Privacy Revolt. When the tour fights back. What happened next was nothing short of remarkable. Coco's comments ignited a firestorm of support from across the tennis world, and it turned one racket-smashing incident into a much bigger conversation about athletes' rights, mental health, and the boundaries of modern sports broadcasting. Novak Djokovic, one of the greatest players in the history of tennis, weighed in during his own press conference. He said it was really sad that players can't move away anywhere and hide and process their frustration, their anger, in a way that won't be captured by a camera. He acknowledged that we live in a society where content is everything, but he called it a deeper discussion that needs to be had. Jessica Pegula, Coco's American teammate who was still competing in the tournament, was even more direct. She told reporters that players are under a microscope all day. The only place they are not filmed, she said, is the locker room or the bathroom. She said flat out that Coco was not wrong. It was, in her words, an invasion of privacy. Very intrusive. And then came Iga Swiatek, the world number 2, the 4-time French Open champion. After losing her own quarterfinal match, Swiatek dropped what might be the most memorable quote of the entire Australian Open. She asked the reporters, "The question is, Are we tennis players, or are we animals in the zoo, where they are observed even when they poop? She apologized for the language, but the point hit home hard. Amanda Anisimova also spoke up, noting that after losing, there are probably not so good moments that get captured, and that the fact Coco's video was posted without her having a say in it was simply tough. The response was so unified, so passionate, that the WTA, the Women's Tennis Association, issued an official statement. And it was not a weak, corporate non-statement. It was strong, direct, forceful. The WTA said, and I quote, that it stands with its players and takes their concerns about privacy and cameras at the Australian Open seriously. Players deserve spaces away from competition where they can recover in private. The WTA chair, Valerie Camillo, called the concerns completely valid and described the request as very human and fair. She said athletes need spaces where they can recover and not feel constantly under scrutiny, and that providing that space is part of the sport's responsibility. Even Tennis Australia, the organization that runs the Australian Open, responded. Tournament boss Craig Tiley acknowledged that they need to walk a fine line, but he said they want to listen to the players. He told reporters, "We've heard you, and whatever adjustments we need to make, we will make." This was not just Coco's fight anymore. This was an entire sport drawing a line in the sand. And it was in the middle of all this chaos, this beautiful, messy, human chaos, that someone else stepped in. Someone who had been watching from the outside. Someone who understood, better than almost anyone alive, exactly what Coco was going through. The Queen herself, Serena Williams. Part 6. Serena steps in, the Queen's move. Now, let's talk about Serena for a minute, because you cannot fully understand what happened next without understanding who Serena Williams is in 2026. She is not just a retired tennis player. She is not just a legend with 23 Grand Slam titles and 319 weeks as world number one. She is a business empire. Serena launched Serena Ventures back in 2014, a venture capital firm that has since grown into a $111 million fund. The firm has invested in over 85 companies, and of those, more than 16 have become unicorns, meaning they are valued at over $1 billion each. Companies like Masterclass, Impossible Foods, Noom. The portfolio is valued at tens of billions of dollars. But what makes Serena Ventures different from every other VC fund on Silicon Valley's block is its mission. 76% of the companies in its portfolio are founded by individuals from historically underrepresented groups. 54% are led by women. 47% are led by Black founders. Serena didn't just want to invest in startups. She wanted to change who gets funded. She wanted to prove that the dreamers and the visionaries who are consistently overlooked by traditional venture capital are exactly the people who deserve to be backed. In 2025, Serena was named the first ever entrepreneur in residence at Reckitt, a major global consumer health company. She invested in the Toronto Tempo, which became the WNBA's first non-American team in 2026. Her estimated net worth sits at around $340 million. She has built, quite simply, one of the most impressive post-athletic business careers in the history of sport. So when Serena Williams sees something, when she sees a young Black woman being criticized for showing raw, honest emotion, when she sees the media piling on, when she sees a familiar pattern repeating itself, she does not stay quiet. She has never stayed quiet. And she wasn't about to start now. First came Alexis Ohanian, Serena's husband and the co-founder of Reddit. He posted on X, formerly known as Twitter, defending Coco directly. He wrote that he loved the energy and emotion from Coco, that we love sports because they are raw, because athletes put their all into the battle, and that sometimes, like life, you just don't win. He called it out plainly. The media was going to spin this private moment for a headline to get clicks. But Coco, he said, did nothing wrong. Ohanian didn't stop there. He posted a video from his car, doubling down on his defense. He argued that smashing a racket is not a big deal. He pointed out that Coco had the decency to express the same level of media outrage. Then Serena posted. She quoted Ohanian's original tweet and added her own words. Simple, powerful, unmistakable, passion, caring, matters. Nothing wrong with hating to lose. Now Coco, when you want I can show you how to demolish in one swipe. Serena style. That was it. That was the whole tweet. And it detonated. When Serena Williams, a woman who has smashed more rackets than she can count during her legendary career, including a famous incident at Wimbledon in 2019 that earned her a fine, tells you it's okay to feel frustrated. It's okay. When the greatest female tennis player who ever lived backs you publicly, the conversation shifts. The narrative changes. Coco saw the tweet, and she responded the way only Coco would respond, with hearts and laughing emojis. Simple, grateful, human. But here is where our story goes deeper. Because the public tweet, that was for the fans. That was for the headlines. What happened behind the scenes, what happened in private, that is where the real story lives. Part 7. The offer. Serena breaks her own rules. Serena Williams has spent the better part of a decade keeping two worlds meticulously separate. Her tennis legacy on one side, her business empire on the other. Serena Ventures invests in startups and entrepreneurs. It does not sponsor active athletes on the WTA Tour. That has never been part of the model. Nike sponsors athletes. Wilson sponsors athletes. Serena Ventures funds the next generation of innovators, entrepreneurs, and world changers. Those are two entirely different lanes. But after watching what happened to Coco at the Australian Open, the loss, the racket smash, the media storm, the privacy debate, Serena made a decision. She picked up the phone. She reached out to Coco directly. According to our sources, the conversation was deeply personal. Serena knows exactly what it feels like to be a young black woman in a sport that was not built for you. She knows the scrutiny. She knows the way the media can twist a single moment into a character assassination. She knows the loneliness of being the only one who looks like you in a locker room full of strangers. She lived all of it. And when she saw Coco refusing to apologize for her emotions, when she saw Coco standing up and saying she would rather protect her team than pretend to be okay, Serena saw something she recognizes in herself. A kindred spirit, a fighter, a leader who hasn't fully realized her power yet. So Serena made an offer. A real, concrete, unprecedented offer. A direct partnership through her brand ecosystem. A deal that combines the worlds of sports sponsorship, mental health advocacy, and empowerment into one massive, game-changing arrangement. The specifics are still emerging, but what we know is this: it is substantial, it is meaningful, and it carries the full weight of the Serena Williams name behind it. Think about what that means. Coco Gauff is already the highest-paid female athlete on the planet. She has sponsorship deals with New Balance, Rolex, Mercedes-Benz, Bose, Head, and a roster of other blue-chip brands that has earned her over $25 million in endorsements alone in 2025. She doesn't need the money. She doesn't need the validation in a financial sense. But this isn't about money. This is about something far more valuable. This is about Serena Williams looking at Coco Gauff and saying, with her name, her reputation, and her business empire behind it, I believe in you. Not just as a tennis player, as a person, as a leader, as someone who is going to matter long after the last ball is hit. That kind of endorsement, that kind of seal of approval from the most iconic female athlete in the history of sport, that is priceless. You cannot put a dollar figure on what it means to have Serena Williams publicly and privately invest in your future. The tennis world immediately began buzzing. Why would Serena do this? Is this a conflict of interest? Is she playing favorites? The questions flew fast and furious. But Serena didn't care. She has never cared what people think when she knows she's doing the right thing. She saw greatness. She backed it. That's what champions do. Part 8. The response. 13 words that changed everything. Now we arrive at the moment. The moment that started this entire conversation. The moment that made us click on that title. 13 words. Coco Gauff received Serena's offer. She read it. She thought about it. And then she responded. She did not write a long, emotional essay. She did not film a tearful video. She did not post a lengthy statement on social media thanking Serena for her generosity. She kept it simple. She kept it real. She kept it exactly who she is. 13 words. That's all it took. Thank you, Serena. Your legacy paved the way. I won't let you down. Let's break that down, because every single word matters. Thank you, Serena. Pure gratitude. No fluff. No performance. Just a genuine acknowledgement of what was offered and what it means. Your legacy paved the way. This is the line that stopped people in their tracks. Coco wasn't just thanking Serena for a sponsorship deal. She was thanking her for everything that came before. for fighting the battles that made it possible for someone like Coco to exist in professional tennis at all, for breaking barriers that seemed unbreakable, for showing the world that a black woman could dominate a sport that had historically shut her out. Coco was standing on the shoulders of a giant, and she knew it, and she was saying so. I won't let you down. A promise. Not to Serena, to herself, to the sport, to every young girl watching who looks up to both of these women and wonders if she can make it too. A declaration that she is ready, not just to play tennis, to carry the torch, to honor the legacy, to be worthy of the investment. 13 words. No emojis. No exclamation points. No dramatics. Just pure, unadulterated class. And Serena? Serena was reportedly stunned. Not because of the words themselves, but because of the tone, the maturity, the weight. In a world of instant reactions and performative gratitude, Coco Gauff responded with something that felt almost ancient in its simplicity and its sincerity. It felt like something a champion would say, because that is exactly what Coco Gauff is becoming. Part 9. The bigger picture. Why this moment actually matters. Let's zoom out for a second, because this story is not just about tennis. This story is about where women's sports are heading, and it is about the quiet, powerful ways that one generation of female athletes is passing the torch to the next. Coco Gauff is the highest-paid female athlete in the world for 3 consecutive years. She earned $33 million in 2025. She has become what Forbes calls a marketer's dream, blending athletic excellence with cultural relevance in a way that very few athletes in any sport have ever managed. She launched her own management company, Coco Gauff Enterprises, in 2025. She is building a brand that extends far beyond the tennis court. And yet, no woman has cracked Forbes' list of the 50 highest-paid athletes overall since 2023. The cutoff for that list in 2025 was $53.6 million, more than $20 million higher than Coco's total. The top 20 men on that list earned roughly $2.3 billion collectively, nearly 8 times what the highest-paid women earned combined. The gap is still enormous. The disparity is still real. And that is exactly why moments like this one matter so much. When Serena Williams, who earned $94.8 million in career prize money and built a $340 million empire after retirement, reaches down and lifts up the next generation, she is not just making a business investment. She is making a statement. She is saying that the future of women's sports is not something to be feared or managed or controlled. It is something to be celebrated and supported and funded. And when Coco Gauff responds with 13 words that carry the weight of an entire generation's worth of struggle, she is making her own statement. She is saying that she understands where she comes from. She understands who fought for her to be here. And she is ready, truly ready, to honor that history while writing her own. The 2026 Australian Open may not have ended with a trophy for Coco Gauff, but she walked away from Melbourne with something that might ultimately prove far more valuable than any Grand Slam title. She walked away with an alliance, a mentorship, a partnership that reshapes not just her career, but the entire narrative around what it means to be a young black woman succeeding in professional sport. Part 10. What comes next? The torch is lit. So where does this leave us? Where does this leave Coco Gauff as we head into the rest of the 2026 tennis season? It leaves her in a position that number 21-year-old American tennis player has ever been in before. She has the Queen's backing. She has the financial empire of Serena Williams standing behind her. She has the support of the entire WTA Tour on the privacy issue. She has the respect of legends like Novak Djokovic and Iga Swiatek. And she has the loyalty of an entire generation of young players, Jovic, Mboko, Andreeva, and the dozens of others who are rising up alongside her, who are looking to her as the leader of their pack. The critics can talk all they want about the racket smash. They can replay that footage 1,000 times. They can write 1,000 more headlines designed to tear her down. But the story of Coco Gauff at the 2026 Australian Open is not a story about failure. It is a story about resilience, about honesty, about a young woman refusing to hide her humanity in a sport that wants her to be a robot. And now, with Serena Williams officially in her corner, not just as a distant idol, but as a direct partner and investor, the next chapter of Coco Gauff's career is about to get very, very interesting. The torch has been passed, not on a tennis court, not in a press conference, but in 13 words, sent from one champion to another, across a generation, carrying the full weight of everything that came before. Coco Gauff is not just the future of American tennis. She is the future of women's sport. And Serena Williams just made sure the whole world knows it. OUTRO. What an absolute ride, right? From the heartbreak of that quarterfinal loss, to the racket smash that sparked a privacy revolution across the entire sport, to Serena Williams stepping out of the shadows and making one of the most powerful moves in the history of tennis. This story has everything, and it is far from over. The fallout from the Australian Open is still unfolding. The WTA is still working with tournaments to change how cameras are deployed in player areas. Serena and Coco's partnership is just getting started. And the next generation, Jovic, Andreeva, Boko, and the wave after them, they are coming. Fast. So here's what we need from you right now. We need to hear what you think about all of this. Was Serena right to step in and defend Coco the way she did? Do you think this partnership is exactly what women's tennis needs? Or does it cross a line? And what did you make of Coco's 13-word response? Was it the perfect reply? Or did you expect something more? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one of them. Seriously, every one. If this video gave you something to think about, if it made you feel something, then smash that like button. And I mean smash it. Just don't smash it as hard as Coco smashed that racket, because we need YouTube to keep this channel alive. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and make sure the notification bell is on, because we have more deep dives coming. We are going to break down the next-gen players who are about to take over women's tennis. We are going to look at Serena Ventures and the companies quietly reshaping the future. And we are going to follow this Coco and Serena story as it develops. This has been Chatterbox. We don't just read the headlines. We live inside them. Keep talking, and we will see you next time.